Hi guys, I'm Ed.
And I'm Harry.
Welcome to another Game Hog Off.
Yes, that's right. This is the series where we take topics about video gaming and debate it fiercely with each other.
Indeed. Now today we're discussing old games versus new games, retro versus modern, modern versus classic, I suppose.
Right. Yes.
So yeah.
To celebrate our new series, Nostalgia Goggles, there's a link to that down there somewhere, in which we take a game from our childhood and discuss whether it actually does hold up. We thought we'd have this debate because Ed is more a fan of new games, I'm more a fan of old games.
Why don't you start off? Why are you more a fan of old games?
I'll tell you what it is, it's the storytelling is so much better. I think it was because they were limited by the medium they had to work with. It meant they had to find new creative ways to get around that kind of thing, like, you know, levels that teach you how to play them as you play them, you know, story that's really deep and it gives you reasons to do these meaningless tasks, but they feel less meaningless because feels like there's more weight to them, I guess, along that way. Whereas new games, just everything is just spoon-fed to you. You know, it's like, go here, press X to do this, press Y to do that. You know, it's the Batman Arkham series, for example. My God, like, just hold your hand to the entire game.
That's different though. Those are interactive story games, so those aren't games in the traditional sense. Yeah, they're films where you interact with it at points, and
like all games like that.
No, like it's because it's literally just a sequence of events that you have to go through where your choice divides the path. But you're mostly watching a film where you get to pick what happens. It's like a choose your own adventure book. So it's not really like a traditional game like a lot of retro games were compared to other kind of mainstream AAA games. So it doesn't really count, that one, I'd say.
What do you mean?
It's just, well, it's in the same way that I wouldn't.
It's a game. I mean,
yeah, but I wouldn't call it like a modern classic. In the same way, I wouldn't call those kind of anime hentai visual novels you get on Steam a proper game. They're not. They're exactly the same thing, but instead of being a graphic visual novel, it's a film that you're watching where you occasionally have to press a button.
No, but come on, these are like AAA games where, you know, yeah, there are gameplay sections and you know what to do in those sections, but you know, it's like true when you get to the new section, it says, right, here's a new thing you have to do and here's how to do it, and very slowly teaching you. And it reminds you at every stage. Yeah, it's just, you see that in all these new AAA games, and it's something that I think is just, it's boring, it's dull, you know, there's no magic left in the games anymore. And, you know, fancy graphics don't make up for that kind of thing.
Interesting. So I disagree with a lot of points in that. So first of all, the storytelling is unaffected, I'd say. Like, sure, there are some games in the past that we have historically, we look back on as being better games with their storytelling, like Final Fantasy VII, it's pretty vast, the story goes on for ages. The Legend of Zelda games are a pretty good one, but I can't really think of anything prior to that where I went, God, what a great story. I mean, the Monkey Island games were pretty deep entrenched in story, but nowadays you get games like Uncharted, which have their own kind of series of gameplay. I don't like the Uncharted games, but I know that they're heavily acclaimed. Games like Dark Souls, which tell beautiful stories without forcing any of it down your throat at all. They explain these entire vast worlds and empires and rulers and monarchs and things that all rose and fell over millennia. And it doesn't tell you about any of it. You have to find it, or you have to use the environmental storytelling to try and get that across. And the same thing is actually pretty prominent in quite a lot of games. Sorry, I keep touching my left ear, it's itching a treat today.
Sorry.
But I don't know, like, I don't feel like going from old games to new games has affected storytelling in any way. So, because like I said, I've named a few games where there's loads. Can you name any games where the story was really good from really old games?
Well, I come immediately to Paper Mario, which we discussed in the Nostalgia Goggles on Friday.
Seems like
fantastic game. Back in 2001, you know, it was an RPG. It was limited by its gameplay style and limited by the amount of space on the physical game cartridge itself. So to pad it out, it's got this great story. You know, it's got so much to explore, so much to do, so many characters to meet, each with their own kind of backstories, and you know, it's the kind of thing that, yes, in a way they're doing that to hide the fact that it's limited by its medium. But the story itself is so fantastic that you don't really care about that kind of thing. Whereas something like Dark Souls, you know, you've got the gameplay is fantastic, you've got all that, and do people care about the story?
Yeah.
I mean, do people really, like, you say that you got to discover it all for yourself. I mean, I thought people couldn't even know what the story was about, and they had to ask.
Well, they don't, but that's the thing, is like there's accounts like Vati Video and stuff like that who do amazing videos explaining the Dark Souls lore and stuff. But once you get that explanation for why everything is the way it is, you get a way deeper understanding for the game. But that was just an example of a game that doesn't force its story down your throat and go, yeah, you've got to find this using this, which does hold your hand a lot more. I will give you that.
Sure.
But the problem with using Paper Mario as an example is that's not too old a game. Whereas if you think of old games, you don't say Paper Mario. You think of even further.
All right.
So things like the original NES games and maybe even SNES, like. There's no game on either of those platforms where I'd got... So to put this in context, back then, let's take Metroid, or even the original Zelda.
I was going to say, Zelda is a key example.
Yeah, exactly. These games had no real story, but there was kind of you had to get to this bit. Like the main Zelda was a very random adventure. You're not told anything, you literally are told that you are an adventurer and you have to save the princess.
Zelda is yours. She is yours.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's just mental. But you were always wanting at the time when you were playing that for it to be in 3D and to be in a bigger world. You were at no point have you been playing Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and games when everything took a step forward and gone, I wish this was in 2D. You don't think like that. And sure, that's more of a reflection of the mediums in which we had back then. But I don't... It's like... So this goes back to our Sonic Hog Off, where I said I don't think you can do 2D side-scrolling platforming games in 2016. And I stand by that. Because they're boring. They're so two-dimensional, and there's only so much you can do with that. It's complete, like they have been surpassed in every way.
I mean, you see a lot of studios these days, making these kind of old-school games, because that's what people seem to want to play.
But can you name any that have done well? They're the kind of thing where people go, oh yay, 2D platformers like I used to play when I was a kid, and you play it and go, well, it's none of the games I played as a kid, so the nostalgia's not there. And actually, I'm just playing a game that's really boring. So what's the point? I can't name any that have got famous out of it. Mighty Number 9 got famous, but for the wrong reasons.
Sure. I know, I couldn't actually think of a good example for that, so you've got me there. But I still think it's fantastic that people are trying to make these kind of games, and it evokes that sense of nostalgia, yes. But I mean, newer games, like take Call of Duty.
Yeah, Call of Duty is a crap example though, because they're a crap franchise that get rehashed, and they have a story. It's just a bad story. They had some games that had a good storyline that they deliver well, like Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 4. That was a good game with a pretty, fairly decent comprehensive story, fleshed out with some great moments of tension and drama. But all their other games have been dog shit on hot pavement, and I can acknowledge that they're not good games, and they're not ones to be saying that they're good story games. But there's a lot. I mean, look at Skyrim, for instance. There's a lot. There are bits of Skyrim that are more hand-holding, but there are bits that are more like learn about the world that you're in, and then you can just piece that information together to get more of the story. Like, there are so many good examples of modern games that do actually have a fairly compelling and great story.
What would be the pinnacle, would you say?
That's a good question. The pinnacle of modern day
storytelling. A great example
games.
of a recent modern AAA game with good storytelling.
I'd say Dark Souls 3.
Okay.
There's a lot of...
Even though they don't tell you much?
Yeah, but that's what I like. I like that there's enough of there right at the beginning. There's enough of the story right at the beginning to let you know roughly what's going on. But then as you go through things and you find description on items, you learn more about it and you piece it all together.
Isn't that the same with Zelda though? The first Zelda game? You're told a very small bit of time, and as you go through, you get new items, and you're told a bit more, and it allows you to progress.
But it doesn't work like that. At no point you just know you are a warrior. You know that Zelda's in trouble. You have to find the Triforce, but there's no more padding around that. Whereas in Ocarina and stuff, they padded more around that. So yeah, but basically, I don't like old games. I don't have a soft spot for them. Things like Metroid and stuff, and Castlevania, games that existed like that. Those were probably good versions of old school 2D games because they gave you a reason to be doing it.
Sure.
They didn't necessarily hold your hand the whole way, and those were good. But again, those are so boring to go back and play now. Not for everyone. I know there's a lot of people who do love their Metroidvania style games, but I just don't. And there's never been a reason for me to want to go back, and it just makes me return to my point that of course most people have this nostalgia because those are all the games we had back then on the SNES and stuff, and so when you're playing through those and they go well, that's great, and it's great that you enjoyed those. But the thing is, like I said, when people do make games that are like Mega Man or like Metroid or stuff, you play them and you go, that was a good game, but it wasn't the game I remember when I was young, and it misses a lot of that value. Maybe it's just nostalgia goggles.
Maybe so. I mean, personally, I would much rather play a game from my childhood than play a new game. I guess maybe it is a sense of nostalgia. I'm remembering fondly because of that. But to me, those games will always hold up and stand the test of time because I still love playing them. You know, I mean, at home, my N64 is next to my PS4. I play my N64 much more than my PS4 just because I love those games. And I guess, yeah, maybe it's just nostalgia.
Fair enough. Do you have nostalgia for old games, or do you prefer the new modern classics?
Let us know in the comments below, and check out Nostalgia Goggles. The first episode is down there somewhere. That was Paper Mario, which we discussed earlier. That was, the first one of a series that'll be going on for a long time. So
hopefully, at least, until we run out of games that we actually used to play in our youth. But either way, guys, which games do you want to see us discuss? Are there any points in the gaming industry that you'd like us to have a debate about? Let us know in the comment section below, and also be sure to like and subscribe to Game Hog if you haven't. Share the video with your friends if you enjoyed it, because it really helps out the channel. And we will see you guys in the next video.
Yes, all that. Stick around for this week. Some great stuff coming up.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
Bye, Z's.
Excuse me. Anyway,
we haven't plugged it enough. That is Nostalgia Goggles. Watch it. It's amazing. It's Paper Mario. It's the best game ever. I love it.
And it's the best show ever, because we're the best channel ever.
It was better than the new versions of it. Yeah, I said it.
And if you don't like old games, why don't you check out some of these new games, like No Man's Sky? Or wait for a few seconds until that's clickable. 3, 2, 1. Or you can click on Abzu, because that's another modern game that's
great.
Like
that. You know?
Yeah, those are good examples of current games, but that doesn't require any story really, apart from environmental story. I knew there was some environmental stuff. Either way, click on these.
Yeah, do that.